Dear students, we are continuing from the Palmar arches. So this picture, this figure clearly shows that the here we can see the radiocarpal joint. Here you can see the carpometacarpal joint, and we were been discussing about the transverse carpal ligaments, how they are. So the transverse carpal ligament and the mainly the we were discussing about the hamate bone. So how the hamate bone, which is and the transverse carpal ligament, which is giving attachment for the openus digitorum minimi, and the action line of openus digitorum minimi is inserted here on the head ball of the metacarpal and then inserted to the hamate and the TCL. So naturally, so this pulling when contracted, this will lift. So this will bring it towards this side opponents. So that helps in the, and you can also see the what we call as the MC, the metacarpals, and the first phalange, second phalange, third phalange. So however increased arching occurs with the activity. So on one side we are using the one part, we are using the operant digitorum minimi. Along with that, the flexor carpi ulnaris, which you all know that which is attached to the pisiform bone and to the soft tissue. That's the reason that the pisiform bone is not part of the radiocarpal joint, and which is more attached to the TFCC, and with the activities of the intrinsic hand muscles that insert on the TCL. So FCU is the extrinsic flexor muscle of the finger of the this wrist, and so along with that, the many intrinsic muscles are also present on the ulnar side, and this together will help in increasing the cupping action. On the radial side, the radial wrist muscles such as the flexor carpi radialis, extensor carpi radialis longus, and the extensor carpi radialis brevis. You all know that the when you are talking about carpi radialis, the carpi radialis muscles, either it is flexor or extensor, will help together. When they function together, they will function as radial deviating muscles. So here the radial wrist muscles cross the second and the third CMC joint and insert on the basis of those metacarpals, produce, because their main action is radial deviation, they do not produce any kind of articular movements on the CMC joint, which helps in the palmar arching, or what we call as cupping activity. So the radial wrist muscles, even though they are present, they don't have a much larger role to play. But the stability part of that, whenever we are doing any kind of functions, especially using a hammer, or sometimes we are using a some objects to break the stone, or some hammers and all. So strength is needed, stability is needed. So this kind of stability can be provided by the three muscles, which are FCR, ECRL, and ECRB. So we can say that the stability of the second and third CMC joints can be viewed as a functional adaptation that enhances the efficiency of FCR, ECRL, and ECRB. So the second and third CMC joints stability factor can increase the efficiency of the radial deviation muscles. That will be helpful. If the second and the third CMC joints were mobile, the radial flexors and extensor would act first on the CMC joint and consequently would be less effective at the midcarpal and radiocarpal joints, given the loss in the length tension. So you know that the length tension activity happens in multi-joint muscles. So here we are talking about whenever the radial flexor extensor would act, any muscle which is acting on the radial flexor extensor muscle, that is FCR, ECRLB, first act on the CMC joint, and then only if they have to act on the mid carpal or radiocarpal. So the major action is at the CMC and less action at the. So this gives a stability factor, and length tension problem also arises because it is crossing more than one joint. So now we have completed the carpometacarpal joint. So we have completed, see, you understand that. So we have completed the radiocarpal joints, then midcarpal, then carpometacarpal joints. We have completed. We have already discussed important thing, that is the palmar arches also. We have completed that. Now we are entering to the metacarpophalangeal. Here it is given as MP because they have not used the carpo. So the metacarpal. So we call it as metacarpal. So metacarpals phalangeal. The metacarpals and the phalangeal are otherwise simply called as MP joint. The MP joint, or I usually like to call it as MCP. So CMC, then this is MCP. So all the MCP joint, 4 MCP joints here we are discussing. Each of the 4 MCP joints of the fingers is composed of the convex metacarpal head. You see very much visible. See the head of the metacarpals. It is round, hemispherical. So this is highly convex. So composed of the convex metacarpal. This is the head of the metacarpal. The distal part of the metacarpals are called as the head of the metacarpals, and they are convex in shape. And to whom they are attaching? They are attaching to the base of all the first phalanges of each finger. First phalanges of all the fingers. See, all the fingers first phalanges. Second, third, fourth, fifth the phalanges, and they are concave in shape because that is necessary. Otherwise, the joint will not be functional. The MCP joint or MP joint is condylate, so it is a synovial joint of condylate variety with 2 degrees of freedom. So we have 2 degrees of freedom at MCP joint. One is flexion extension, the other one is abduction adduction. The large metacarpal head has 180 degrees of articular surface in the sagittal plane with the predominant portion lying volarly. So the large metacarpal which we have seen in the earlier figure, you all understood that it is a almost semispherical, no? So semispherical means the one full sphere is 3360 degree, right? So one semispherical means 180 degrees. So 180 degrees of articular surface contact is there. In which plane? Sagittal plane. In sagittal plane with the predominant portion lying volar. So most of the joint function when we discuss is it happens in the volar aspect. Means because volar means anterior, so mostly flexion. See extension, when you try to move your MCP and flex, try to do that. How you try to do that? You understand that it is happening in the towards the flexion direction. So flexion is a major action. It is coming back to the new extension. Hyperextension is a mild degree of hyper. So mild degree only it's possible. Abduction adduction is spreading of the fingers. This is happening. So 180 degrees of articular surface in the sagittal plane. Predominantly we have to say about the side is portion lying is volarly. This is opposed to approximately 20 degrees of articular surface on the base of the phalanx. So that means that 180 degree on this side on the head of the metacarpals, and on the phalangeal side, that is phalanges, we have only 20 degrees of articular surfacing area. So most of the surface contact area is with the phalanx, head of the phalanx. And when you're talking about the 20-degree articular surface of the base of the phalanx, it is in the frontal plane. It's in the anterior plane, frontal plane. The other one is sagittal side. The plane is in sidewise, on the sagittal plane. There is less articular surface than in the sagittal plane, and the articular surface are more congruent. So here there is incongruent. There is, even though the joint is contact is good, incongruent joint. Why? Because the surface area of the head of the metacarpal is larger, whereas the one convex, and the other one is concave, which is good, but the space is very less. So 180 and 20 degrees difference is huge. So it is, we can say that the articular surfaces are it's more congruent because of convex convexity, but at the same time the surface area difference is larger, less articular in sagittal plane. So now the MCP joint is surrounded by a capsule. You will clearly see that following figures will come. You will understand where is the capsule. All the other structures are also there. Sagittal, the bands, and the volar plate. We are going to discuss about that. The metacarpophalangeal joint is surrounded by a capsule that is generally considered to be lax in extension. Lax means loose. No? Lax means loose in extension. Now I want all of you to touch your take your right hand, turn the palm towards the floor, and then you touch the MCP joint. The MCP joint is the area where you can see the skin have some wrinkles. The skin of the MCP joints will be some mild wrinkles will be there. Now in extension, if you pull the skin, try to pull the skin, you can pull the skin. I'm not talking about the joint, okay? This is only the skin. And now you flex the and form a fist. You try to form a fist. Now you try to pull the skin of the MCP joint. You cannot pull. Same way in extension, inside the skin, what do we have in the joints? Or we have the uh, capsule of the condyloid joint. The joint type synovial joint, which is a condyloid variety, has a joint capsule. Same way, when you extend the capsule, is like the skin. The capsule also is lax during extension, and when flexion, it is going to be taut. T-A-U-T, taut. Given the incongruent articular, so because the articular surface is totally incongruent, capsular laxity in extension allows some passive axial rotation of the proximal phalanges. So some kind of axial rotation is allowed during extension because of the lax capsule. Two collateral ligaments at the volarly located transverse metacarpal ligament enhance joint stability. So two collateral ligaments at the volarly located transverse metacarpal ligament enhances joint stability. As we noted previously, incron as we noted previously, incongruent joints often have an accessory joint structure to enhance stability. So we already have whenever we all the chapters we have studied, we know that whenever the joint is incongruent or the congruency is less, what will happen? Some other structures will be present to increase the congruity, that or the surface contact area. So this is called as, here we are what we are using at the MCP joint. This function is served by volar plate. So volar plate is a structure which is present here that is useful for us to do this function.